toadstool can be used as an actual stool. That's awesome. That is the biggest fungus I've ever seen. That's ridiculous. Shiitake mushrooms. Dried shiitake mushrooms. Alright, let's try it. I'll try some of the broth first. Still quite hot. Interesting. I've never had miso soup before, so I don't really know if it's supposed to taste like that. It's almost got like a weird burnt flavor and almost a sour flavor at the same time. But I will take it. Good morning. I slept extremely well. First time using my new bivouac sack. Figured out that it's got this little toggle up here that keeps the rain hood from falling down over your face, which is good because when it's not raining, you build up condensation if it's closed. So you don't want that to keep falling down. Just want the mosquito net up. I'm feeling good. I'm not like super sore. I mean, I can definitely feel it in my legs, but I think once I get up and get moving around, I'll probably be just fine. So, Summit City Canyon is behind me. The river is behind me. Today I've got some serious climbing to do, and probably a fair bit of trail finding, which isn't great, but you know, it's nothing that I wasn't able to do yesterday, so time to make some breakfast. I think I'll have oatmeal this morning. I want to try and get a reasonably early start, just because it is going to be such a, you know, a difficult start today. So I'm not going to bake anything. Ah, lovely. As a child I was raised on salted oats and the tales of a savage past. I learned to love the drifting rain and winter's icy blast. And all day long on the Holy Isle, far out in Lamlash Bay, I walked the hills in creaking shoes where the bones of the old ones lay. And at night the head of Wallace bled on solemn floral drapes, and the flower of Scotland bloomed again among proddy dogs and papes. I was taught in school that Britannia's rule was forced on the Scots of old, bought and sold by a parcel of rogues for a handful of English gold, till our fate was sealed at Culloden's field, where the blood of the clans ran down through the twisted sea of history, through the streets of Glasgow town. And at night the head of Wallace bled on solemn floral drapes, and the flower of Scotland bloomed again among proddy dogs and papes. On the long summer nights when the northern lights split the sky like acetylene, the prods and tykes, well, they fought on the dikes that ran round the housing scheme. For sticks and stones, well, we broke our bones for the sake of the good old cause that's kept our country bowed and chained and under British laws. And at night the head of Wallace bled on solemn floral drapes, and the flower of Scotland bloomed again among proddy dogs and papes. You know, we started yesterday up at around 7,000 feet or more, and it was really alpine, the vegetation. I mean, white pine, red fir, and now we're down at about 5,200 feet, and it's amazing the difference. Instead of white pine and red fir, we got black oak, cedar, ponderosa, I think. Could be Jeffrey, but probably ponderosa. Even some dogwoods down by the river. Alright, getting a bit of a late start this morning as usual. But I gave my electronics a little time to charge in the sun, and did a few camp chores. So, in theory, there's a trail around here. So yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no campsite here at Camp Irene, and it's gonna be really hard to find the trail. Well, there's where I was camping, and there's the trail, and there's a campsite. It was dark. Don't judge me.
You know, my brother and I often speculate about what it would be like to visit California before the Europeans came. Like, what would the Sierra have been like at that time period? And I kind of think that Summit City Canyon might be it. Dense, trackless woodlands, old growth trees. I mean, look at the size of that sugar pine. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is called trembling aspen, because the way the leaves tremble in the wind. It's a member of the birch family. Trembling aspen is one called Pondo that I think is out in Utah, is the largest known organism and the oldest. It's a cluster of aspen trees that are all genetically identical and connected by the roots, so it counts as a single organism. And it's the largest organism ever known. Aspens and members of the birch family are extremely tolerant of cold conditions and wintry weather. They tend to be the deciduous trees that grow in the most difficult adverse conditions because of their bark. You can see that they're known for their kind of white papery bark, but if you look at it, it's actually greenish, and that's because it has chlorophyll in it. So even when they lose their leaves in the winter, as they're starting to turn yellow and drop their leaves for winter, they can continue to photosynthesize throughout the winter months just through the chlorophyll in their bark. So mountain birch, for example, grows up in the very northern parts of Sweden, Iceland, Alaska, up above the Arctic Circle even. So just a few days ago, there was a rock slide in Yosemite off of El Capitan that I think resulted in at least one death. And my girlfriend's grandmother was very worried that I too would succumb to the rain of stones that has apparently gripped the Sierra. But I said, don't worry about that. It's not like I'm going to be hiking in those types of terrain. I'm not going to be walking under any big old pieces of granite that might fall on me. Oops. All right. It was touch and go there for a second, but it did not, in fact, fall on me. I'm okay. I've only done 6. Oh God, please don't be something gross. Doesn't look like it's anything gross. I'm gonna take this down and throw it away. 6 on-trail miles today so far, and it's already 3:22. Sun sets at 6. God dang. 5 hours, 1 mile an hour, almost less. There is Bear Valley Ski Resort, which is super cool because I hiked all the way over from pretty much Kirkwood Ski Resort over there. There's Bear Valley. And the top of Mount Reba is only half a mile that way. I'm pretty tempted to summit it. I think I will. Here we are on top of Mount Reba. There's Bear Valley Ski Resort, Salt Springs Reservoir, Mokelumne Peak, only 600 feet higher than our current location, Round Top Peak over there. There's the Summit City Canyon that I came down yesterday. There's that little ridge I just overtopped. I think Lake Alpine's down just out of sight. But yeah, there's a big old plume of smoke coming up over there. I'm gonna head down to Lake Alpine, see if I get a cell signal, and if I do, I'll call and see what's up, or maybe ask somebody at Lake Alpine. But that's, according to my GPS, that's right along my route. So, might call this a little bit early. You know, I think I have video of myself coming down that slope right there, looking out across the canyon over it, this mountain shrouded in clouds and snow. I'll try and see if I can find that. Good morning. So, I was looking at the map, trying to figure out where that fire's at. And based on where my dad alluded to it being, it's kind of right in my path. And I don't know, like, which route I can take to avoid it. So, rather than try to mess with that, I'm going to hike out today. Out to Union Reservoir. I'm feeling a lot better than I was yesterday. Everything, my legs. Good night's sleep is good for that. But I'm still not feeling like trying a 13-mile hike, dodging a forest fire all the way. So I'm gonna get a pickup at 2 p.m., which leaves plenty of time to make a nice hearty breakfast. I've got some rosemary barley bread, and I hope it turns out well. The first batch is done, as usual. Quite white on the top, but we got some nice browning on the bottom. These muffin papers I made came out very well. I'm very pleased with that. And we have some butter. It's very, very crumbly because there's no wheat flour in it. It's just barley, so there's no gluten, which makes for a very crumbly bread. But the flavor is fantastic. That butter is perfect. Previously, I had been cutting out a circle of parchment paper for the bottom of my bake pan, and then a strip of parchment paper to go around the edge. And that was not super effective because it left a gap, like a ring around the bottom, where if I was using a wet batter like this, the batter could conceivably slip through, probably would slip through, and stick to the inside of the pan. So I went on Thingiverse, and I found a cupcake paper kind of press that was designed to press out little cupcake papers so that you didn't have to buy them. I scaled that up by better than 200%. I think it was like 208 point something %. And printed it out on my 3D printer. And I found that if the trick is you get the parchment paper wet, then you put it in there, you stamp it, and you get what amounts to a large cupcake paper. And then I store that inside the bake pan, inside my cook kit, so that it holds its shape, and it works perfectly. That's really good.